oftentimes when the house falls silent, I come to this room, my room, stare out the window, I watch the valleys go by. I watch the daily life of Rhymney, and I just think. But it's not just admiration, it's reflection. You see, memories, they resurface, and well, you see, this isn't my house. This is my soon-to-be father-in-law's house. And I didn't exactly move in either. I didn't have anywhere to move from. They actually took me in. This tale isn't a happy one to tell, and it's not an easy one either. But I need my story known. If truth be told, I'm not even from the valleys. I'm not even from South Wales. I was actually born in Cardiff, North Wales. And the only language I knew was the native tongue of my father's, Welsh. My name is John Pugh. I was born in 1883, and I lived in a little farm, just in the hillside. Me, my dad, Thomas, my mum, Elizabeth, and my little brother, Thomas Jr. Little Tom, we called him, but life was good, and that's all I ever knew. Life was tough on the farm. We were up at 6 a.m. every day without fail. Long, long hours on the field. It was hard work, but it was honest work. But I learned a lot. I learned about preparing, maintaining, and harvesting the crops from my father. I watched how my mother tended the horses and looked after livestock as if it was the easiest thing in the world. And then me and Tom, we'd chase after each other and we'd run around the fields when no one was looking. Simple times, but again, it was hard work, very demanding. I was drained at the end of every shift, but I fell in love with the horses. Masterpieces of the field, I call them. It breaks my heart whenever we give one away, and but I seem to have inherited my mother's gift of taming them and looking after them so easily. I thought the farm was my destiny. I thought one day it would be mine. I thought that would be my home forever. But life has a way of taking things from you when you least expect it. My dad's unwavering efforts and years on the farm, they eventually caught up to him in the end. He became bedridden. He was really sick. We were at his bedside. We knew the day was coming, but we just tried to stop it. We talked like normal, and he ruffled my hair and Tom's hair. And then Mom took us out of the room. The doctor come in. He was only in there a few minutes, but it felt like hours. He come out looking sorrow. And then Mum, she came in and she told us that he was gone. Pneumonia, they told us. We were devastated. It's just the three of us now. Mum, she tried hard to maintain the farm. She tried hard to keep getting money for the family. She was such a rock. She's tried to stay strong for us, and I'm in awe of that. But in the moments when she thought we weren't looking, she just cried. And those cries, they're etched in my memory. We tried to make it work, three of us, as hard as we could. Tried to be happy, and it lasted. For a while, at least. Only a year later, one minute Mum was there, and the next, she was gone. I can't exactly remember what killed her in the end. The doctors tried to explain, but I was clutching on to Tom. I was upset. I was angry. Why did it have to happen to us? Why? Why did we have to lose them both? I blocked it out my memory, but it was just... Why? By the age of 13, I'd lost both my parents. I'd lost my house. I'd lost everything I'd ever known. We were too young to look after ourselves. And you see, me and Tom, we got moved to Liverpool with our auntie. I really didn't want to go. Tom, he held my hand the entire trip. We didn't want to leave. We got to her house. She welcomed us with open arms, but this wasn't home. Home was the fields, the farm, the horses. Mum and Dad, this wasn't home. We struggled badly. School was hard. All the work was in English. I didn't have a clue what was going on. The teachers shouted at me because I didn't understand. The kids, they pointed and laughed. I didn't know what they were saying, but I knew it wasn't nice. Tom would run to me after school, tears in his eyes, and he just wouldn't let go. We'd go home. We'd sit in our room that she made up for us. We didn't let go of each other. We felt so alone. So alone. A few years later, when I turned 17, I couldn't bear it anymore. The house, it was a nightmare. This wasn't home, and it never will be. It got too much, and I decided I had to go. I don't know where I was going to go, but I just had to leave. So I conjured up a plan. I had to escape. There was a boat. The land of opportunity, they said. America. That was my trip. That was the only way I was leaving. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know what the outcome would be. But all I knew was that I had to go. And that very night, amongst the shadows and the silence, I packed my bag. Half a loaf of bread, a spare jumper. I was ready. I walked towards the window and I stopped dead in my tracks. Tom. I turned to my brother and he was in bed, fast asleep. He was the only person I had left. I wanted him there. I wanted him wherever I went. But this could be dangerous. I couldn't put him in any danger. So I made the decision to leave him here. It was hard, but he needed to be safe. He needed security, and I can't give him that. Not on the run. So I wrote a letter in Welsh. I put it on his bedside pillow. And I bid him a silent and teary farewell. I gave him one last look and I lowered myself out the window. As soon as my feet hit the floor, I ran. And I didn't look back. Nothing could stop me. I got to the docks. And the ships, they creaked and they groaned like beasts. I found the boat that was going to America. I quickly snuck on board and I hid in the belly of the ship. I found a little spot and off we went. I tried to rest. I tried. But I was plagued with thoughts. They just wouldn't go away. What would Mum and Dad think? Me just leaving Tom. Oh my God, Tom. My own brother. I can't believe I left him. I pray that some way in his heart he can forgive me. I hope I cross paths with him again. I really hope so. The mental torment didn't cease. And then the physical pain started. I was so hungry. I was so thirsty. My stomach was in so much pain. I couldn't bear it anymore. I come out of my hiding spot and I faced several angry workers. They dragged me from my spot, spitting angry words at me. I couldn't understand a word, but trust me, they were nasty. When we got to the nearest dock, they threw me off like I was nothing, like I was a sack of coal. And off they went. Once again, I was lost. I looked everywhere to try and get some sense of where I was. I looked up and I saw a sign. Cardiff docks. Cardiff. We heard of this place back home. I was still in Wales. I wandered aimlessly, trying to find some way, someone. I was hungry, cold, no money, and I thought, what if this is it? What if my story ends? In a place I didn't know, in a place where no one knew my name? What if the Pugh line dies? But for the first time since, God knows, I was in a stroke of luck. Some people, they saw me distressed and they come over to me, tried to help. Luckily, they spoke some Welsh. I tried my best to explain and they tried their best to understand. And they pointed me towards the valleys. They said the Welsh language was a lot more prominent there. And without a second thought, off I went. I walked and walked and walked. I tried hard to remember the directions. I came across hills and farms, and it reminded me of home. My feet started to hurt, started to bleed, but something kept pushing me. Something didn't let me stop. It was like Mum and Dad, they were there behind me, pushing me to keep going. And then I arrived, and there was a sign just before a little village. Rhymney. I've heard of Rhymney before. Only briefly throughout my walk, but it was there. I walked in, and I heard it. I heard the Welsh language. It was carried across the streets like a hymn. I felt that spark again. It was like the winds, they were whispering to me, John, you're home. I eventually found work. The mining industry was expanding, and they were in desperate need of miners. So I went there. My natural strength from the farm. I could handle the pit ponies because it ran through my blood. I did it back home. They said the job was perfect for me. I slept in the mines because, I didn't have anywhere to live. They had a few lodgings, so I stayed there. The shifts were long, hard. But it was like second nature to me. But again, this didn't feel like a home. This wasn't a bed. And then, one day, that all changed. After a really long shift down the pit, I needed a drink. I needed to forget about the cold and the dark of the pits because it's not good for your brain. I walked into this little pub in the village. I approached, and there she was. This barmaid. I was taken aback. I couldn't help but stay. I sat down. I overheard her speaking, to the other customers, and she had such a calm, soothing voice, and they laugh. It was like the golden light that shined through the dust of the pits. I ordered a drink, and I drank it really slowly. I tried to make the conversation as long as possible. We laughed. She teased me about the dirt and the dust that was in my hair, my shirt, in my lungs. I fell in love. Some called it foolish, but it was love at first sight. My eyes met her beautiful eyes, and I just knew she was the one. The one I've dreamed about for so long. I always wanted what Mum and Dad had, a car I had of my own. It was her, and I found her in this little pub. It was slow at first. Evening walks along the valleys, watching the sunset. Sundays in the chapels. We wrote letters back and forth. And then came the day she asked me where I'm from. So I reluctantly told her the story. I feared she'd think I was nothing but a stowaway. I held my breath, and she gave me a massive clutch. I was surprised. I didn't expect this. She said she felt sorry for everything I'd been through. I didn't know what to say. She asked me where I lived, and I told her I stayed in the mines, in the lodge. And with fire, straight away, she said, absolutely not. We walked back to her house, and we entered the living room. I entered cautiously, but I looked in, and I saw something I hadn't seen so long. A family. 6 of them. Rosina, she approached her parents. And she asked and she begged if I could stay. I stood silently. I tried to shrink myself down as much as I could. There was tension in the air. I could tell from the parents' face. Her dad, James, he stood up, he walked towards me, and I thought he was going to throw me out then and there. This was his house. I didn't need to be there. I shouldn't have been there. He took me in the kitchen and we had a long talk. I told him my story. And again, I thought he'd see me as nothing but a stowaway, just a runaway. But he called me brave. And he gave me a chance. He gave me a room for board and lodge, obviously. But I shook his hand straight away. Without a second thought, I took the offer. And I took it with great appreciation. This was it. I finally had a place to stay. My own room. My own bed. It was silent. The years and years of just constant noise up in my brain. From the memories, the echoes of the past. And Rosina, she did everything for me. She gave me love. She gave me peace. A chance. This house. This might have been a house. But Rosina, she was my home. I found love. And the love blossomed.